The Kridoan war fleet hung in orbit like a steel storm, and General Varkov stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth spin below with something close to amusement. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the blue-green planet that had spawned so much ridiculous mythology across the galaxy. "A death world," he muttered, mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter among his kind. The humans actually believed their own propaganda. His tactical officer, a younger Krydoran named Selvik, shifted nervously. "General, the reconnaissance data suggests environmental hazards that—" "Hazards?" Varkov's voice cut through the bridge like a blade. "I have conquered 12 systems, Selvik. I have walked the sulfur plains of Kormath Prime. I have breathed the methane swamps of Deltara without assistance. Earth is a paradise world masquerading as danger, and its inhabitants are soft creatures who have never faced real adversity." The holographic display showed human military installations across the continents. Primitive, laughable. Their weapons were chemical-based projectiles and crude energy systems. The entire species should have surrendered the moment his fleet arrived, but instead they had sent a single-word response to his demand for unconditional capitulation. "No. Prepare the landing force," Varkov commanded. "We will take their capital cities in 3 rotations. I will personally lead the ground assault on their largest population center. These humans need to see a true warrior before they understand submission." Selvik's antennae twitched. "Sir, their gravity reading is 1.0 standard. Our training simulations were designed for actual death worlds," Varkov interrupted. "Not this overrated ball of water and dirt. The humans have built their reputation on exaggeration and luck. Today, that ends." The dropships launched within the hour. Varkov stood in the lead vessel, surrounded by his elite guard. Each soldier wore light armor, the kind used for occupation rather than combat. The humans would break quickly. They always did. The atmospheric entry burned bright around the hull. Varkov felt his blood surge with anticipation. 300 campaigns, and this would be the easiest. A footnote in his legacy, the planet where the infamous Deathworlders revealed themselves as nothing more than clever storytellers. The ship's computer announced 60 seconds to landing. Varkov checked his sidearm, more from habit than necessity. Below, the human city sprawled in chaotic patterns, so different from the ordered architecture of civilized species. 30 seconds. He flexed his 4 arms, each one capable of crushing standard building materials. His exoskeleton, evolved over millions of years on a high-gravity world, made him functionally invulnerable to most small arms fire. 10 seconds. The landing thrusters fired, and Varkov prepared to step onto Earth's surface for the first time. His mandibles spread wide in a warrior's grin. 5 seconds. The moment his boots touched the ground, Varkov's legs buckled. The planet pulled at him like a living thing, dragging him down with impossible force. His knees struck pavement, and pain exploded through his joints. Around him, his elite guard collapsed in heaps of armor and thrashing limbs. "What?" he gasped. But even speaking felt like lifting a mountain. Through blurring vision, he saw humans approaching. They walked easily, casually. One of them, a female in military dress, looked down at him and smiled. "Welcome to Earth, General." The human female crouched down, and Varkov watched in horror as she balanced perfectly on the balls of her feet, a position that would have shattered his ankles even in normal circumstances. She tilted her head, studying him like a scientist examining a failed experiment. "My name is Captain Lauren Mitchell," she said, her voice calm and measured. "I'm going to explain what's happening to you, because honestly, we're all a little tired of this." Barkov tried to push himself up. His primary arms trembled, servos in his armor whining as they struggled against Earth's relentless pull. He managed to lift his torso 3 inches before collapsing again. Around him, his soldiers groaned and wheezed, their respiratory systems straining. "Your homeworld," Mitchell continued, standing up with effortless grace, "has 0.73 standard gravity. You evolved in an environment where everything was lighter, easier, less resistant. Your bones are porous, your muscles are efficient for your world. But here," she gestured at his sprawled form, "here you weigh almost twice what you should." Another human approached, a male wearing what appeared to be casual clothing. He carried a container of liquid and drank from it while walking. The simple act looked like magic to Barkov now. "The Critteren Empire," the male said, reading from a handheld device, "conquered 12 systems. Let me guess, General. All of them low-gravity worlds? All of them populated by species who never evolved to handle real weight?" Barkov's mandibles clicked weakly. You knew." "Of course we knew," Mitchell said. "We've been watching your fleet composition for weeks. Lightweight armor, minimal structural support in your dropships, no gravity compensation equipment. You didn't even bring medical supplies rated for high G injuries." She knelt again, this time close enough that Barkov could see his reflection in her eyes. "You actually believed your own propaganda about us being soft." A younger human soldier jogged past, moving at a pace that would have required Barkov's fastest combat sprint. The human wasn't even breathing hard. "Here's what's going to happen," Mitchell said. "We're going to help you back to your ship. All of you. We'll provide gravity compensation harnesses, medical treatment, and a safe escort to orbit. Then you're going to leave our system and never come back." "Why?" Barkov managed to rasp. "Why not? Kill us." Mitchell's expression hardened. "Because we're not monsters, General, despite what you clearly think." She stood and signaled to her troops. "But understand this, Earth isn't a death world because of predators or weather or toxic atmosphere. It's a death world because we had to become strong just to stand up in the morning. Every human you see walking around, they're carrying their own body weight plus whatever they're holding every single second of every single day. Our children do it. Our elderly do it. Medical teams arrived, humans pushing wheeled stretchers that somehow didn't sink into the ground despite the terrible gravity. They began loading Cridoran soldiers with practiced efficiency, lifting armored warriors that outmassed them by half again as much. Barkov watched a human female, barely reaching his shoulder height when he'd been standing, hoist one of his guards onto a stretcher without assistance. She caught him staring and shrugged. "Been doing deadlifts since high school?" she said cheerfully, then moved to the next soldier. "Your reconnaissance was correct," Mitchell said, returning her attention to Barkov. "Earth has a breathable atmosphere, abundant water, comfortable temperatures. By every standard measurement, we're a paradise world." She paused, letting that sink in. "But paradise has a cost, General. Everything here evolved to survive 1.0 gravity. The insects that crawl, the birds that fly, the fish that swim, and us." 2 human medics carefully fitted a harness around Barkov's thorax. He felt the anti-gravity compensators activate, and blessed relief flooded through his body as his weight decreased to manageable levels. They helped him to his feet, supporting him on either side. "Can you imagine," Mitchell continued, walking alongside as they moved him toward an evac point, what it takes to build a civilization under these conditions. Every building requires foundations that can handle immense stress. Every vehicle needs power systems rated for constant gravitational load. Every child who learns to walk is performing a feat of strength that would impress your finest athletes. Barkov saw his flagship overhead, still in orbit, still untouched. The humans could have destroyed it, could have ended his entire fleet while his forces lay helpless on the ground. But they hadn't. "There's a human saying," Mitchell said. "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." "We've been getting stronger for 3 million years, General. Every generation, every century, every era, all of us just trying to stand up." They reached the evacuation zone where human transport craft waited. "Not attack vessels, medical shuttles? Go home," Mitchell said. "Tell the other empires what happened here. Tell them Earth isn't overrated. If anything, we've been underselling it." As they loaded him into the shuttle, Barkov looked back at the human soldiers. They stood casually, rifles resting against shoulders, completely unbothered by the crushing weight that had destroyed his invasion in minutes. One of them waved. Barkov closed his eyes and felt shame burn through him like acid. The medical shuttle climbed through Earth's atmosphere, and Barkov felt his weight decrease with every 1,000 meters of altitude. The human medics monitored his vital signs with equipment that beeped softly in the sterile compartment. They worked efficiently, professionally, without gloating or mockery. Somehow, that made it worse. Heart rate elevated but stabilizing. One medic said, "A male with dark skin and steady hands. Bone microfractures in all 4 legs. Severe muscle strain. Respiratory distress subsiding." He looked at Barkov with something that might have been pity. "You're lucky, General. Another 10 minutes on the surface without support, and you would have started experiencing organ compression." Barkov said nothing. What could he say? That he had led 3,000 soldiers into a trap of his own arrogance? That he had dismissed every warning, every data point, every simulation, because he had believed humans were inferior? The shuttle docked with his flagship, and Critteran medical staff rushed forward with anti-gravity gurneys. They moved frantically, desperate to help their general. But Barkov saw the fear in their eyes. They had watched the invasion fail in real time. They had seen their unstoppable general reduced to a broken heap within seconds of landing. Selvig appeared in the medical bay doorway, antennae drooping. "Sir, the entire landing force has been recovered. The humans, they helped everyone. No casualties, no prisoners." "How many of our soldiers can still fight?" Barkov asked, though he already knew the answer. "In space, most of them, once they recover. On Earth?" Selvig's mandibles clicked softly. "None, sir." "Not without gravity. Compensation equipment we don't have." Barkov pulled himself into a sitting position on the gurney, ignoring the protest from his medical officer. Through the viewport, he could see Earth rotating below, beautiful and serene and absolutely unconquerable. Not because of weapons or shields or superior technology, because of gravity. A communication request flashed on the medical bay's display. Captain Mitchell's face appeared, looking up from somewhere on Earth's surface. Behind her, Barkov could see human soldiers engaged in what appeared to be recreational activity. They were lifting heavy objects repeatedly, lowering them, then lifting them again. "General Barkov," Mitchell said, "I wanted to check on your condition. Are you receiving adequate medical care?" "Why are you doing this?" Barkov demanded. "Why show mercy to an invading force?" Mitchell's expression remained neutral. "Because this doesn't have to be a war, General. You made a mistake, a bad one, but you can still choose what happens next." She glanced over her shoulder at her soldiers, then back to the camera. I'm sending you data files, medical specifications for gravity compensation equipment, physiological studies on low-gravity species operating in high-G environments, treatment protocols for the injuries your soldiers sustained. Varkov stared at her. You're giving us the means to invade you successfully? No, Mitchell said flatly. I'm giving you the means to survive a diplomatic visit. If you come back, General, come back as someone interested in talking. Trade, exchange of knowledge. We have things you need. You probably have things we could use. She leaned closer to the camera. But if you come back with warships again, if you threaten our world again, we won't be as gentle. Understood? Before Varkov could respond, Mitchell cut the transmission. The data files appeared in the flagship's computer system, freely accessible, unencrypted. Everything the Critteren Empire would need to operate on high-gravity worlds, given freely by the species he had intended to conquer. Selvig approached carefully. Sir, there's another problem. The Fleet Admiralty is demanding a full report. They're asking why we haven't begun orbital bombardment. Varkov's laugh came out as a painful wheeze. Orbital bombardment? Against a species that lives under constant gravitational stress? Their buildings are probably bunkers by our standards. Their infrastructure designed to withstand forces we can barely imagine. He pulled up the tactical display, seeing Earth's cities with new eyes. Every structure down there is built to resist its own weight plus whatever load it carries. Our bombardment would be an inconvenience at best. Then what do we tell the Admiralty? The truth, Barkov said quietly, that we encountered a genuine Deathworld, that the humans weren't exaggerating, that every single member of their species is stronger than our finest warriors, simply because they had no choice but to become strong. He pulled up the data Mitchell had sent, scanning through physiological comparisons. Human bone density was almost 3 times Cridoran standard. Their muscle efficiency under load was extraordinary. Even their cardiovascular systems operated at pressures that would rupture Cridoran blood vessels. They're not warriors, Barkov continued, his voice filled with something between awe and horror. They are survivors. Every civilian down there is tougher than our shock troops because survival on their world requires it. A junior officer entered the medical bay, moving carefully in the lower gravity. Sir, we're receiving a message from the Terran Defense Network. They're offering to facilitate our departure from the system. They've calculated optimal trajectories to minimize fuel expenditure and they're providing free fuel for any ships running low. Varkov closed his eyes. The humiliation was complete. Not only had the humans defeated his invasion without firing a shot, they were now helping him leave, treating him like a lost child who needed guidance home. Accept their offer, he said, and transmit my personal thanks to Captain Mitchell. Sir, do it, Selvig. We owe them at least that much courtesy. As the officer left to carry out the order, Barkov stared at Earth through the viewport. Somewhere down there, humans were going about their daily lives, walking, running, lifting, carrying, building civilizations under a gravitational burden that would crush most spacefaring species. And they called it normal. The Critteren fleet began its departure from Earth's system 3 rotations later, engines burning in coordinated sequence as they followed the fuel-efficient trajectories the humans had provided. Varkov stood on his bridge, still wearing a partial gravity compensation harness beneath his armor. His medical officer had insisted the microfractures in his legs needed another week to heal properly. Sir, we're receiving another transmission, Selvig said. Not from Earth. It's the Confederation of Free Worlds. Multiple species. They're requesting emergency conference. Barkov's mandibles clicked. The Confederation consisted of 17 species. all of them former targets of Critteren expansion. They had banded together 5 cycles ago, creating a defensive alliance that had slowed but not stopped his campaigns. Put them through. The holographic display flickered to life, showing representatives from a dozen different species. At the center stood Ambassador Chen, a human female with silver hair and sharp eyes. She wore formal diplomatic attire and carried herself with the same casual confidence Varkov had seen in the soldiers on Earth. "General Varkov," Chen said, her voice carrying across the void, "we've been monitoring your fleet's activities, your attempted invasion of Earth, your subsequent medical evacuation. If you contacted me to gloat, Ambassador, I contacted you to offer perspective." Chen interrupted smoothly. "Do you know why humanity joined the Confederation 3 years ago?" Varkov remained silent. "Because we were tired of watching species like yours prey on low-gravity worlds," Chen continued. "The Yithrans, the Plexari, the Nostari Collective. All of them conquered because they couldn't fight back against armored warriors who seemed invincible." She gestured to the other ambassadors. "None of them evolved under the conditions we did. None of them had the physical advantages we developed simply by existing on our homeworld." A Yithran ambassador spoke up, its translator rendering clicks and whistles into standard language. "When humans first arrived at the Confederation, we thought them arrogant. They spoke of defending the weak, of standing against empires. We thought it was posturing. Then they offered to train our soldiers." Another ambassador added, "This one from a species Varkov didn't recognize. They showed us techniques for fighting in variable gravity. They shared exercises that could strengthen our bodies beyond what we thought possible. And they asked for nothing in return." Chen's expression hardened. "You see, General, Earth could have built an empire. We're stronger, faster, more durable than 90% of known species. We could have done exactly what you've been doing, conquering low-gravity worlds, enslaving populations, expanding through force. But you didn't," Varkov said slowly. "No, because we know what it's like to struggle. Every human understands the burden of carrying weight that never stops, never relents. We empathize with species who face challenges they didn't choose." Chen leaned forward. "That's why we're making you an offer, General." Varkov's antennae twitched suspiciously. "What kind of offer?" "Join the Confederation," Chen said simply. "Not as conquerors, as equals. We'll provide your people with gravity compensation technology. We'll share our training methods so Creodorans can operate on higher gravity worlds. We'll open trade routes and diplomatic channels. In exchange for what? Our surrender? In exchange for peace," Chen said. "Dismantle your war fleets. Convert them to exploration vessels. Use your resources to build instead of destroy. Help defend weaker species instead of preying on them." A Plexari ambassador spoke up, its crystalline body refracting the display light. "The humans did not destroy you when they could have, General. They showed mercy when destruction would have been easier. This is their way. They extend hands before raising fists." Varkov looked at the assembled species, former enemies, former targets, now united under human leadership, not through conquest, but through mutual benefit. It was unlike anything he had encountered in 300 campaigns. "And if I refuse?" he asked. Chen's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Then you return to the Krydoran Empire and explain how your invasion failed, how you were defeated without the enemy firing a single shot, how the humans offered you friendship and you rejected it." She paused. "And then, General, you'll watch as we help every single one of your potential targets defend themselves. We'll train them, equip them, teach them everything we know about fighting in variable gravity." Selvig shifted nervously beside Varkov. The threat was clear. Without the advantage of superior strength, Kridoran expansion would halt completely. Their entire military doctrine relied on physical dominance, and the humans were offering to nullify that advantage for every species in known space. "You're forcing my hand," Varkov said. "No," Chen corrected. "We're offering you a choice. Continue down a path that leads nowhere, or join something larger than yourself, something that actually builds instead of takes." She gestured to the other ambassadors. Every species here made the same choice, some easily, some reluctantly, but they all chose cooperation over domination. Barkov pulled up internal reports on his tactical display. Kridoran resources were strained from constant warfare. Occupied territories required massive garrisons. Resistance movements plagued every conquered world. The empire was vast but fragile, held together by force that was proving increasingly inadequate. "I would need to consult with the Emperor," he said carefully. "Of course," Chen agreed. "We're not asking for an immediate answer, but General, consider this. Earth could have killed you, could have destroyed your fleet, could have used your attempted invasion as justification for a counterattack on your homeworld." Her expression softened slightly. "We didn't do any of that. We helped you, healed you, sent you home safely. That should tell you something about who we are." The transmission ended, leaving Varkov alone with his thoughts and his officers. The bridge remained silent for several moments. "Sir," Selvik ventured, "what are you thinking?" Varkov looked at Earth, now a distant blue dot shrinking behind them. He thought about Captain Mitchell, crouching easily in gravity that had crushed him, about human medics carrying wounded Cryodorans without strain, about the casual strength woven into every aspect of human existence. "I'm thinking," Varkov said slowly, "that I may have been fighting the wrong war for a very long time." The journey back to Crydor Prime took 20 cycles, and Varkov spent every moment reviewing data. Not battle plans or invasion strategies, but the information Captain Mitchell had provided: human physiology, gravity compensation technology, Confederation charter documents, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. The more he read, the more his certainty crumbled. "Sir, we're approaching Crydor Prime," Selvik announced. "Imperial Command is ordering us to dock at the military station. The Emperor wants a personal briefing." Varkov straightened in his command chair, ignoring the dull ache in his legs. The gravity compensation harness helped, but human doctors had warned him that full recovery would take months. Months of being reminded about his failure every time he moved. The military station loomed ahead, a massive structure orbiting Crydor Prime's largest moon. Docking procedures completed smoothly, and Varkov made his way through corridors filled with staring officers. Word had spread. Everyone knew about Earth, about the invasion that had failed before it began. Emperor Thaxian waited in the Strategic Command Center, surrounded by his war council. The Emperor was old by Krydoran standards, his exoskeleton scarred from decades of personal combat. He had built the empire through strength and cunning, expanding Krydoran territory across 12 systems through relentless military campaigns. "General Barkov," Thaxian said, his voice like grinding stone, "explain how 3,000 of our finest warriors were defeated by a planet of primitives." Varkov stood as straight as his injuries allowed. "They are not primitives, Emperor. That was our first mistake. Our greatest mistake." He activated the holographic display, showing Earth rotating in the void. "Their technology is comparable to ours in most areas, superior in some, but that's not what defeated us. What defeated us was 3 billion years of evolution under 1.0 standard gravity." Murmurs rippled through the War Council. General Krethis, commander of the Northern Fleets, clicked his mandibles dismissively. Excuses. You grew soft, Barkov. Lost your edge. Any warrior worth his armor could have. Could have what? Barkov interrupted, his voice sharp. Could have stood in gravity that compressed your organs? Could have watched human children outperform our elite soldiers in basic physical tasks? He pulled up comparative data. Their bone density is triple ours. Their muscle efficiency under load exceeds our best conditioning. A human civilian is stronger than a Credoran warrior, not through training, through existence. Emperor Thaxian studied the data in silence. His antennae twitched, a sign he was processing the information carefully. You're saying Earth is unconquerable. By us? By any species that evolved in lower gravity? Absolutely. Barkov pulled up footage from the failed invasion. Krydoran soldiers collapsing. Human medics casually lifting armored warriors. Captain Mitchell crouching effortlessly while he struggled to breathe. But that's not the whole story, Emperor. He explained the Confederation, the offer Chen had made, the choice between continued isolation and joining something larger. With each word, he watched the War Council's expressions shift from anger to calculation. They want us to surrender, Krethus said flatly. They want us to evolve, Barkov corrected, to stop conquering and start cooperating, to use our resources for building instead of destroying. Weakness, another general spat. The Krydoran Empire was built on strength. On dominance. You want us to abandon our heritage? I want us to survive, Barkov said quietly. Our current path is unsustainable. We control 12 systems, but we're overextended. Resistance movements drain our resources. Occupied populations require constant suppression. And now humanity has shown every species in known space that we can be stopped, not through superior weapons, but through simple biology. Emperor Thaxion raised a hand, silencing the council. What exactly did the humans offer? Barkov transmitted Chen's proposal directly to the Emperor's display. Full membership in the Confederation, access to gravity compensation technology that would let us operate on any world regardless of gravitational stress, training programs, trade routes, defensive alliances, all of it freely given in exchange for peace. And our fleets converted to exploration and defense. No more conquest. No more expansion through force. Krethus slammed two fists against the table. This is surrender dressed in diplomatic language. The Emperor should reject it immediately and authorize retaliatory strikes against... Against what? Barkov demanded. Earth? You saw the data. Orbital bombardment would barely scratch their infrastructure. Ground invasion is impossible. And if we attack, they'll arm every species we've ever threatened with the knowledge to defeat us. He turned to face Krethus directly. Tell me, General, how do you plan to maintain our empire when the Ythran suddenly have soldiers who can match our strength? When the Plexari learn combat techniques from a genuine Deathworld species? When every conquered population has access to human military training? The chamber fell silent. No one had an answer because there wasn't one. The strategic calculus had changed the moment humanity had revealed their true nature, not through aggression, but through mercy that demonstrated overwhelming capability. Emperor Thaxian walked to the viewport, looking down at Krydor Prime below, the homeworld that had given birth to an empire. The low-gravity world where Creodorans had never needed to become truly strong because their environment had never demanded it. I built this empire, Thaxian said slowly, because I believed we were superior, that our military prowess and tactical genius made us destined to rule. He turned to face Barkov. You're telling me we were wrong, that we only succeeded because we picked weak opponents. Not weak, Emperor. Different. They evolved in environments that didn't require the raw physical power that humans developed. But that doesn't make them weak, and it doesn't make us superior. It just makes us specialized. Thaxian's mandibles clicked softly, a sound Varkov recognized as deep contemplation. If we accept this offer, if we join their confederation, what happens to our identity as Creodorans? Do we simply become another client species under human dominance? From what I've observed, Varkov said, the humans don't dominate. They coordinate. Each species in the Confederation maintains its autonomy, its culture, its identity. They just agree not to prey on each other. He pulled up images of Confederation meetings. Humans are influential because others trust them, not because they enforce compliance through force. A novel concept, Thaxian said dryly. Trust? One that appears to work, Emperor. The Confederation has been expanding peacefully, while our empire has been slowly collapsing from internal pressure. The Emperor studied Varkov for a long moment. You've changed, General. The warrior who left here would never have spoken of cooperation and trust. The warrior who left here, Varkov replied, had never experienced true helplessness, had never watched his soldiers suffer while enemies showed mercy, had never seen what real strength looks like when it chooses gentleness instead of violence. He met the Emperor's gaze steadily. Earth didn't just defeat me, Emperor. It taught me. 6 months later, Varkov stood in the Confederation headquarters on the neutral station orbiting Proxima Sanctuary. His legs had healed completely, though he still wore a light gravity harness out of habit. The station maintained 0.8 standard gravity, a compromise that accommodated most member species comfortably. Ambassador Chen approached with another human, a male wearing the casual athletic clothing that seemed standard for their species. General Varkov, I'd like you to meet Commander Derek Hunt. He'll be overseeing the joint training operations between human and Credoran forces. Hunt extended his hand in the human greeting gesture. Varkov had practiced this, grasping the human's hand firmly. The human's grip was controlled, calibrated not to crush Credoran bones, but Varkov could feel the casual strength behind it. Honor to meet you, General, Hunt said. Read about your decision to bring the Empire into the Confederation. That took guts. It took desperation, Varkov admitted, and wisdom I should have possessed earlier. The decision had not been easy. Emperor Thaxian had spent weeks deliberating, consulting with advisors, reviewing projections. In the end, simple mathematics won the argument. The Empire could continue fighting and slowly crumble, or it could adapt and potentially thrive. Thaxian had chosen adaptation, though not all Creodorans agreed with his choice. General Krethus had resigned in protest, taking a small faction of hardliners with him. They operated on the frontier now, refusing to accept what they called surrender. But most of the Empire had followed Thaxian's lead, curious about this new path. Your people are already showing progress, Punt said, leading them toward the training facilities. We've had Krydoran volunteers working in variable gravity for 3 months now. The results are impressive. They entered a massive chamber where Krydoran soldiers trained alongside humans and representatives from a dozen other species. Varkov watched a young Krydoran female complete a series of exercises in 0.9 gravity, moving with confidence that would have been impossible 6 months ago. She's one of our best, Punt said. In another 2 months, she'll be ready for full Earth-standard gravity operations. Not comfortable, but functional. And the technology transfers? Varkov asked. Chen pulled up a holographic display showing Krydoran shipyards. Your engineers are adapting our gravity compensation systems to your existing fleet designs. Civilian applications, too. Medical facilities, construction equipment, personal harnesses. Within a year, Creodorians will be able to operate effectively on any world in known space. Varkov nodded slowly. The transformation was happening faster than he had expected. Critteren scientists were collaborating with human researchers on projects that would have been unthinkable months ago. Trade routes were opening. Cultural exchanges were beginning. "There's something else," Chen said, her tone shifting to something more serious. "We've received intelligence about the Vrexian Dominion. They're mobilizing forces near Confederation space. Third time this year they've tested our borders. The Vrexians were an aggressive species from a high-gravity world, one of the few that matched or exceeded Earth's gravitational stress. They had been watching the Confederation's expansion with increasing hostility. The Vrexians evolve on a 1.2 gravity world," Hunt explained. "They're physically stronger than humans, though not by much. They've been conquering low-gravity species for decades, using the same strategies you used to employ. And now they see the Confederation as a threat to their expansion," Varkov said, understanding immediately.
"Exactly," Chen confirmed.
"Which is why we need experienced military minds who understand conquest from the inside. We need someone who knows how empires think, how they plan, how they justify their actions." Barkov's antennae twitched. "You want me to help defend against the Vrexians?" "We want you to help us convince them there's a better path," Chen corrected. "The same way you were convinced, not through violence, but through demonstration. Through showing them what cooperation achieves versus what conquest costs." Through the viewport, Barkov could see ships from 24 species docked at the station. Vessels that had once been enemies now working together, sharing resources, building something larger than any single empire. "The Vrexians won't listen easily," he said. "They're proud. Convinced of their superiority, they'll see offers of peace as weakness." "Sounds familiar?" Hunt said with a slight smile. Barkov clicked his mandibles in what he had learned was the Crideran equivalent of human laughter. "Point taken, Commander." He turned to Chen. "What do you need from me?" "Help us prepare," Chen said. "Share your tactical knowledge. Teach us how conquest-minded species think and operate. And when the time comes, stand with us when we meet the Vrexians. Show them that even the mighty Crideran Empire found strength in cooperation rather than domination." Barkov looked at the training chamber, at species working together who would have been enslaving each other a year ago. He thought about his soldiers who had collapsed on Earth, helpless and broken. He remembered Captain Mitchell's mercy, the human medic's gentle efficiency, Ambassador Chen's patient offer of partnership. "I spent 300 campaigns believing strength meant the ability to conquer," he said quietly. "Earth taught me that true strength is choosing not to, even when you could." He straightened, meeting Chen's gaze. "I'll help, not just with the Vrexians, but with building something better than what I spent my life creating." Chen smiled, genuine warmth in her expression. "Welcome to the real fight, General. The one worth winning." As they walked through the station, Varkov passed a viewing area where young beings from multiple species played together in variable gravity, their laughter transcending language barriers. A Cridoran child chased a human child who ran effortlessly in the heavier setting, both of them delighted by the challenge. The future, Varkov realized, would not be built by warriors like him. It would be built by these children who grew up seeing cooperation as natural, who trained together and learned from each other's strengths rather than exploiting each other's weaknesses. He had mocked Earth as an overrated Deathworld, and Earth had responded not with anger, but with patience, not with violence, but with healing, not with conquest, but with invitation. Sometimes, Varkov thought, the hardest thing the warrior could do was stand down, but sometimes standing down was the bravest choice of all. And somewhere on that blue-green planet where he had fallen and been lifted back up, humans went about their daily lives carrying weight that would crush most species, building civilizations under gravitational stress that served as their greatest teacher. They had learned to stand strong under impossible burdens. Now they were teaching the galaxy to stand together.